Hello, so today I'm painting another reference photo painting. Again, this is another photo from Scotland, I think. Generally they are. What I tried to do is blast in the basic shapes. I don't care about the color. If you look at this painting, the photo, sorry, you will see that the road is very straight. You don't want to do that. Straight lines are not a good thing for any painting because your eye goes too quick along the lines, so you want to break them up, and what that means is just make them more curvy, and then your eye doesn't go so quickly through the painting. There's lots of little tricks like that. I'm not saying the road I've done is a good shape, actually. It's not. Now looking at it, it's like, yeah, it's not so good, but hopefully I'll fix that. I can't even remember if I do or not. We'll find out. And so the main focus of this painting, you have to have a focus in the painting, and that always used to confuse me in a landscape, because it's like, what is your focus in a landscape? You still always have a focus, even if it's not so obvious of what it is. So what a focus is like has the biggest contrast and kind of sticks out to you, and nothing sticks out more than the road. So it is gonna be the road, which is fine. So when people say have a focus, it doesn't have to be like a person or something specific. It just has to be something, as basic as a road is fine. Now looking back, I'm painting in things, and when I do this style, I'm basically just experimenting, and I don't really know if things work or don't work. But what's cool about Procreate and all other sort of apps these days, we have so many opportunities to change things. Like, I'm not too worried early on. All I'm trying to do is make something to fix. I know that might sound a bit crazy, but what I'm trying to do is make something that I either like or don't like, and then I can play with it. Once you have something, it's much easier to mess around with it. Like, obviously, if you have nothing, there's nothing to fix, so you just need something. So get it down and try to get the big shapes in, and you'll notice that I turned the reference off pretty quickly. Once I got the big shapes in, I don't need to be confused by the reference anymore. And the reference is only there. If you wanted to paint realistic, you'd need to keep the reference on at all times. And I have painted realistically a lot in the past, and I would keep the reference up at all times, and I'd be zooming in and understanding the values, the colors, the shading, etc. But over time, I prefer to paint in not a realistic way, because it's more fun. And I'm not trying to win any awards here, so I'm just trying to have fun, which should be the main goal. Well, it is for me. I'm not trying to tell you what your goal should be, but I'm trying to have fun, and I like to make shapes quickly, and I like just to make things not look exactly like the photos. So, but I do like the photos because it gives me an idea, and the idea of the composition is quite difficult without a paint, without a photo. It's quite difficult to where does the path go, where do the mountains go. It's quite difficult. So the photos come in handy, but I don't want them to look anything like the photo, really, because I just want the representation of it. And in my mind, everything is oversaturated and colorful. I don't know why. Maybe that's just the way I see things, the way I want to paint them. But I have to paint like this. I mean, this would be useful to see how you change a photo, very busy photo. I mean, photos are really, really busy. They got a lot of details, and you don't need much of it to represent. So this is called representational painting, and it could be even more realistic, but it would still represent what it was. So it's still doing the job. But it depends on your style. If you want to paint more realistic, this is still a good start, because if you get to this point where I stop and I start to go a bit abstract, you could stop there and use the underlying bits that I have and start to paint realistically on top. You still need a decent base to be able to paint realistically, and it's more important that you have all the shapes and things in before you start to go realistic. But realistically, though, you don't have sharp edges and things like that. So for me, I like the sharp edges, and I like it to look a bit like vectors. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But I don't really like the vector per se, because they're very, very boring, with the like triangles and moving around the dots and things. I don't like that so much. So anyway, back to what I'm doing is I'm fiddling around with the path. The paths are really hard to get the right value. Sometimes you go dark, sometimes you go light, and you might be wondering, why do I choose one or the other? I generally just choose what fits the outsides. So I like contrast. People are drawn to contrast. So if the outsides are quite dark, I want the path to be light, or vice versa. It doesn't really dictate which way they need to be, but if the light was on the outside, then I maybe have a dark path. But really, I'm just looking for contrast. I like contrast a lot, so I'm looking for really dark next to really light. So you can see in the front I have the really dark little foliage and stuff, and because against the white, almost white of the path, it looks really contrasty and it draws your eyes in. And now later in the painting, I'm going to change the background mountain, which technically should be light because it's in the distance and it looks like it's 2 miles away or whatever. But now I'm messing around with it. The reason is I just want more contrast, and I want more directing your eyes at the path. Now I can do that by making everything darker around it. And then, because I said earlier the focus is on the path, I have to make sure, well, I don't have to, but it just works better if I draw your eyes to the path and nothing else. Now, I could probably have darkened the sky to go even more crazy, but you got to be a bit careful with the sky, because it has to be the lightest value. Unless you're cloudy, it has to be the lightest value. So I'm just messing around. I'm putting in details, but I'm coming to the end. And there we go. Yeah, I don't know if this worked, but hopefully you liked it. If you did, give me a subscribe and a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.